So, guys, welcome to today's show. We've got Jonathan Wells on today, who's a musician and a contract creator. So, welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, if you want to tell the guys a little bit about yourself, and what you're currently doing at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a singer and a musician, and currently working on music. I'm trying to figure things out on my own, essentially out in the world, getting into the world of business and sales and entrepreneurship as well. And I'm all over the internet currently, trying to be at least. And certainly in the recent few years, I've definitely developed more of an interest into just the world at large, with how people are behaving. A lot of the problems that I'm seeing nowadays, which is quite a contrast to the work that I normally do. So in a way, combining, I guess, my love for the creative arts, but also wanting to use the other side of my brain for, I guess, discussions like this. And moving forward is interesting. Wondering how best to navigate it, basically.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Life's a journey, and we start from a position, whether it's a good one or not. It doesn't really matter. It's a case of navigating this journey and trying to become the best version of ourselves. And as you said, you do the music side,
Yes.
etc. So maybe that's your expressive side, and then you're looking out to see how the world works and seeing how people
Mm.
behave. And maybe that's from the sales side, do you think? Because from a sales perspective, I mean, I've done sales in the past. It's a really good way to
Yes.
really learn about the world in a weird and roundabout way, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think with sales, the ability to sell is something that is significant and is primary with everything that we do. Whether it's a job interview, our intention is to sell ourselves. Whether it's approaching a girl at a bar, our intention is to sell ourselves. And I think most definitely with each interaction that we have in all sorts of circumstances, we're trying to convince the other person or the other group that we are of something of worth. And that can definitely lead down a dark pathway where we behave in such ways that we're not being true to ourselves. So I guess for me, with the work that I'm wanting to do in terms of reaching out to people, having productive discussions, not being afraid to speak my mind and talk on subjects that are considered to be controversial, I kind of want to drop the entire sales sort of persona of wanting to say whatever is going to make people happy or make people feel comfortable, and focus entirely on the truth in of itself, regardless of how that makes people feel. To do so in a compassionate way, but because of there being so many problems, I think we can all observe in the modern world today with how many people are suffering. It's worth putting in the tough love. So finding a way to put myself out there as a musician, as a creative individual, but also then remain sincere and genuine, which is not what Hollywood wants whatsoever from their people. That's going to be a tricky road to navigate, but a fun one, I'm sure.
Well, I think with sales, there's really two sides to it, though, isn't there? There's like those that use like dark psychology to try and manipulate people, depending on, again, what you're selling. And then there are those that are just trying to help people make the right decision. And I think if you believe in what you're selling, then it would be the more honest approach. Whereas if you don't believe in what you're selling, and it's more of feeling or thinking about the commission and the income, then maybe sort of more manipulative tactics may be used, etc. But you're absolutely right in terms of the media and the narrative. Honesty and freedom of speech is something that is now being looked down on, and that if we don't conform to this sort of leftist LGBT trans, let people do whatever they want, we don't need to be good at things, etc. We don't need to be our best version of ourselves. We don't need to fat shame people, because look, at the end of the day, it's genetic when clearly it's not. I mean, there might be some a very small proportion that is genetic. Let's not take that out of the equation. But for most people, they aren't exercising enough, they're eating too much, and what they are eating is low quality. What would you say is something that's very close to your heart in terms of a societal problem that you would like to fix, or maybe to rephrase that in a slightly different way, something that has gone off its natural course of how things are? So, for example, male versus female, quite a simple one. But is there something other than that that you feel that is close to your heart in that respect?
Certainly. Well, I think the important thing is to know you mentioned the word fix, right? And I know that that's obviously a very sort of blunt sort of term, because at the end of the day, there is no external sort of source that can fix whatever's going on with you at the end of the day. So my personal belief, like when it comes to mental health, a lot of the time, it's a result of our own actions that cause our own suffering, especially in Western society where equal rights have essentially been given to all and have been given to all for the past 30, 40 years, where opportunity is boundless. As much as we are being attacked by modern corporations, social media, where the government wishes to take more and more control of our individuality and sort us into different groups in order to keep us fighting against one another, therefore weakening us, separating us, and having us be more vulnerable to their insidious agenda. At the end of the day, in the current world where living is as easy as it has ever been, I think that mental health is one where we need to stop looking at the external sources and blame everything else around us, and actually have a look at how we are choosing to live our own lives. Are we choosing to be in front of the computer for 12 hours a day? Are we choosing not to exercise? Are we choosing not to keep our apartments clean? Like, are we choosing to have a low-paying job? Choosing, right? So to be fully responsible for what it is that you are doing in terms of the faults that you're engaging with, and also the more positive aspect of choice, which is to make the positive choice for yourself. So I think that there is this idea that bad things happen to you and there's nothing you can do about it. Whether it's, oh, guess what? You've got a chemical imbalance in the brain. Or we're going to diagnose you with this condition and there's nothing you can do about it. That type of thinking, I think, is intentional, in my opinion. I'm not even a qualified doctor. It doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. The point is that belief that is instilled in younger people to say that there are things that are wrong with you that you cannot change is part of the problem. And nowadays we have this apathetic, faux sympathetic approach to handling these people by simply patting them on the head and saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Instead of, this is what you should do. This is how you get out of this painful situation that you're in. So, I would say definitely within the mental health side of things. If we look at depression, in my opinion, depression is the result of extreme narcissism and selfishness.
The
Because
thing
all
is,
that you're thinking about is yourself.
yeah, I mean, it's something that I
Really.
wrote in my first book, what, three or 4 years ago, about how a lot of depression is, as you said, not being happy with your situation. And does that come down to not acting correctly? Is that coming down from, as you said, top down, whereby we are being manipulated to think in a certain way from the news and negativity, divide and conquer, which you also mentioned? Or is it a combination of those? And regards to choices, do we have choices that are dictated, or do we have a choice beyond that? And for a lot of people, they are really sort of closed-minded and don't see the bigger picture. They, as you said, sit on the sofa for 12 hours a day, watch the same news programs. They are programmed by the same information. They equal opportunities are there, but at the moment they're trying to say that we all need to be equal in every right, like in a communist or socialist way. Do you feel that that's the case in respect of equal opportunities in the workplace? They say that we need to have certain numbers of males and females and certain numbers of certain races because that's equal opportunities. Do you not feel that that's maybe unequal opportunities in the respect that if you are trying to forge a number together, you are actually promoting, let's say, females to get into the workplace or ethnic minorities to get into the workplace to fulfill an equal number. But is that then not equal opportunities as well? Is that something that you feel that is the case as well globally?
Oh, absolutely. Any successful business needs to operate as a meritocracy for the purpose of being able to successfully sell to its customers and make a profit for its shareholders. It's as simple as that. This idea of quotas, which has been around for a number of years, of course, is just for companies to look good. That's all that it is, because they're following the popular social trends of the time, which they believe is going to secure them more profits. It is interesting how weak some of these companies are, how easy it is for them to follow what is currently popular. The question is where is the source of this I guess agenda to separate into each individual by their sex, by their race, as if that really matters at the end of the day. Which is, it's interesting because these types of people, if we're looking at individuals in the world, I think most people have a compassionate view. They are actually wanting the best for people. They're wanting this form of equality. You know, they want a form of world peace, which is not realistic in the slightest. There's no such thing as world peace, and it will never happen. And that's not a bad thing per se. That's just not how we operate. I think that if we're looking at more of the leftist woke types of individuals, if we are to use particular labels, I'm not personally a big fan of using labels because I think it removes the individuality from a person. But I think most of them are fairly compassionate people. But unfortunately, there's this essence of narcissism that has been brought to them by social media, where they feel good by, I guess, providing, showing a sense of virtue, where they're wanting for minorities to have better chances, better results, better opportunities, but they're not understanding that that's actually quite condescending towards those individuals. You know, it's like the concept of an African American is able to pass school with a lower grade just because he's black. That's not taking into account his individual intelligence. It's just looking at the color of his skin, and people are deciding, oh, we need to make it fair. We need to make up for what happened years ago, you know, with slavery in America, and we're going to make it easier for him to pass school or get into college. That actually begins to impact them. This is the problem with quotas, is that going back to your point of hiring individuals, if you're not hiring based on their merit and their ability, you're hiring them on something that doesn't actually matter, and your company is going to suffer as a result. Now, if you decide to hire out an attractive girl at a coffee shop, hey, it's a different story. But ultimately, the rule generally is that you should obviously be hiring someone based on their merit and their ability.
But that is a merit, though, isn't it? For the female that works in a coffee shop, that is part of the role description. How can you attract and retain custom? So I know what you're trying to say is, oh, well, actually, in the meritocracy basis, are you just looking at the hard skills or the financial skills? Can you count? Can you prepare food or whatever it may be? But also there's the softer side. What does the person look like? How polite are they? How likely are they to draw in customers? Because even if, you know, let's say that 50-50 males and females come into the coffee shop, sometimes women will be happier with female, and obviously males would like the attractive female as well. So maybe it's a case of working on both sides. Do you think that these problems of quotas and being brainwashed by mainstream, etc., do you think a lot of this it comes down to the breaking down of the nuclear family?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, if you break down the classic traditional family paradigm, then all hell breaks loose. That which has worked for many, many years. I mean, we've so far taken, I guess, a more monogamous look in terms of the family paradigm, but that's actually worked, where it's been one man, one woman, and then their family home, their kids. That's a beautiful balance, right? And when there's a balance, then there's harmony. But you take that away, then there's chaos. Then there's weaker individuals. All of a sudden, these people are going to be more depressed. You can then sell them drugs. You can then sell them anything whatsoever. You can make a lot of money off of them. You can tell them to stay inside for 2 years and they'll listen to you, while they'll make billions of dollars off of putting something into your veins that you might not necessarily need. So the breakdown of the family home has introduced a bit of an identity crisis for individuals, which has led to more, I guess, the openness to changing your gender, for example, which is not actually possible. It's only a belief that a person holds in their head. And I have sympathy and compassion for them that they are impressionable to the point of being taken advantage of by the systems that are now put in place. It is not their fault.
Yeah.
Which is why they need to be respected as individuals primarily.
But
this is the interesting thing. Yeah, go on.
So I was going to say that the argument that there's more than two genders, yet the females who want to transition to a male are transitioning from one gender to another. So their argument that there's more than two genders is based on the fact that they want to change gender. Does that not make that doesn't really make any sense, does it?
Well, there's this idea that you can now separate gender from sex. When the word gender was used, it was introduced as an interchangeable word with sex, simply just to remove the sexual connotation that the word sex has. That's the only reason the word gender was introduced. It is has the exact same definition. There is just this more modern definition that has been created out of thin air to suggest that characteristics, masculine, female characteristics, or how you feel is now part of your identity.
Yeah.
And I think that this, again, is a set of information that has been put forward to the public, namely in modern universities, where you've got gender and humanities teachers that are lecturing to young, impressionable minds, suggesting something that is biologically false. The issue, though, when someone as myself speaks of these things, is more than likely I'll be given particular labels, such as a transphobe or a number of different labels, right? But my point is that these are just kids, 16, 17, 18, however old they may be. They're just trying to figure out what is best for them based on what they know and how they've been conditioned, how they've grown up in the world. And it is unfortunate that what has been presented to them is false, and it is something that they are picking up, and it's now becoming somewhat enforced as well. This idea that you want to play with girl toys, Timmy. Well, that means you're a girl. So this idea is now being introduced even earlier, and I think we can all see the pre and post-op attempted suicide rates. I think we all understand what they are. 40%, the classic number, higher than the attempted suicide rate of Jews in the Holocaust. So is that due to online bullying? I don't think so. It's due to mistreatment of these kids.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I agree that there's a spectrum in respect of there are masculine males, there are feminine females. Let's say that's the range of the spectrum. But there are also fairly feminine males and there are masculine females. But that doesn't mean to say that they are the opposite sex or the opposite gender. I think that's where the sort of confusion lays, or maybe not confusion. It's obviously clear that it's an agenda that's being put forward on the young kids. But just to go back to the family that obviously the family home that brought us to this conversation in terms of trans, etc. I read a piece of information recently that obviously single family homes obviously aren't good for the kids, but that single male parent homes are actually better than single female parent homes in terms of they were looking at the prison numbers of who's in prison. And what I sort of sat back and thought was that, well, yes, in terms of authority, a man holds more authority than the female. And it's not, I'm not here to be sexist. I'm not saying that. But if you ask most men, they are more likely to listen to a male than a female. Maybe it's the authority in his voice, it's stature, the fear of physical reprimand, whatever it is. And for the female, governments across the world are encouraging the females to leave the male, saying that, oh, don't worry, we'll put you in your own home and we'll give you benefits, etc. Do you feel that the degradation and degeneracy that's in society now is predicated off the fact that we are incentivized to break up family units, which obviously has issues such as transgender and education issues, etc. Do you feel that there's any more sinister offshoots of that you can see in today's sort of life, let's say?
Well, everyone is sexist to some degree. It's all unconscious. It's all biological. It's all physiological. We treat, based on whether you're a man or a woman, you treat people differently. So if you're a man, you will treat and perceive a man differently to how you perceive a woman. We do treat the genders differently, the two sexes, I should say, differently. Absolutely. How I speak to a woman is going to be different to how I speak to a man. Now, I may be more tender and more gentle when it comes to a woman. I may be more blunt and to the point when it comes to a man. However, this attitude, this natural biological attitude, which is perfectly healthy and perfectly normal and is not insidious in of itself, is now being put forward as being disgusting, where toxic masculinity is now a popular term. This idea that feminism at all needed to exist, it's there is a real effort to have men and women combat each other unnecessarily, despite the fact that we have been cooperating since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Men have literally built with their own hands everything, and women are the foundation of all creation. They are the center of absolutely everything, and good men recognize this and understand this, which is why our job is to protect them, to provide for them, to make sure that they are safe, whether they like it or not. They can complain, but I doubt they're going to be complaining with a free house. So, the idea is to take care of them and to cherish them and to recognize them as being divine. And that doesn't sound very sexist, does it? However, I would have more respect for my boss if it was a man that was older than me, rather than someone that was a female, because there's a part of me that's like, this feels strange, and it's not conscious, but I don't necessarily think it's a negative thing to feel. I'll still speak to this person with a tremendous amount of respect, and respect the fact that they are in the position that they are in. They've put in the work to get to where they are currently. But no doubt we communicate differently, and that's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Good men absolutely adore women. Everything that we do is for women. If you really think about it, everything that we create, if we are wanting to have a family, hey, guess what? It involves a woman. So we need to do the right things in order to attract the right kind of mother for our eventual kids to keep our legacy moving forward. So no doubt the insidious nature of the breakdown of the family paradigm is including having men and women combat each other to the point where there are people on YouTube and Rumble nowadays that are getting paid to speak common sense about men and women in dating. And it feels like it's a revelation. Oh, wow, I haven't heard this in so long. Common sense, So that's where we're at right now. The pendulum is beginning to swing the other way.
But that's what's tends to happen, isn't it? That when things get pushed too far the other way, in whatever sense, that's when truth and the correct way to do things comes back. So you mentioned
Yes.
toxic masculinity, and I feel that that's a way that they use language, don't they, to reframe something to sound worse. So how can you put masculinity and toxic together? How can you put social distancing next to each other? Because actually, it's anti-social distancing. It's not social. You
Mm,
can't be social distancing. Social
mm,
media is actually
yeah.
anti-social media because
Yeah.
it's not social. Social is 90% of it's 80 or 90% of all communication is body language. So how can it be
Yes.
social media? The equal opportunities thing we talked earlier about, again, all of these language metrics essentially brainwash us into thinking a certain way. Can you think of any other ones that you thought, well, actually, yeah, this language is purposely used to try and change my opinion in some way, shape, or form?
Mm. Well, I do think toxic masculinity is the big one nowadays. There is no doubt an attack on men. I think the use of the phrase, cis male and cis female, is again something that has become quite normalized instead of just saying male or female. But that's okay. I'm not going to be judgmental towards the individuals that believe that, because they're just wanting to figure themselves out, and that's okay. But yeah, this idea of toxic masculinity is now being taught to young boys in school. When I first heard the term, if I think without being aware of I guess the popular meaning behind the phrase toxic masculinity on social media, if I just thought of that phrase, I would think, oh, a man that's overly aggressive, or maybe is vulnerable to being violent. Toxic, like the masculinity in terms of how strong we can be, that becoming out of control. But now this idea of toxic masculinity is a man that doesn't show his emotion, which is actually a very, very strong trait for a man to have,
Yeah.
especially when you're, say, for example, in a room where you have a family member that has passed away. You're surrounded by your sisters or your partner or your daughters, and they're bawling their eyes out, and they need a pillar of strength to lean on.
Yeah, it's like what Jordan Peterson said, isn't
There's
it?
your
With being the you want to be the strongest man at your father's funeral, and it
Yep.
being stoic is very good because you make
Yes.
better decisions. And if we look at males versus females, their natural traits, women are naturally more intuitive. We are naturally more aggressive and blunt, as you alluded to earlier. So, what
Yes.
do you think the solution is then for all of this degradation of society? Do you think it's self-improvement? Do you think it's putting
Mm.
forward messages to people? Do you think it's
Mm.
having a complete change in government, which is obviously going to be very difficult? What are your thoughts on what a solution would be to try and
Certainly.
improve society?
Yep. Well, government's not going to change anything. It doesn't matter what they do, whether it's two party, one party, doesn't matter. This idea that the popular elitist, disgusting people at the head of office is somehow going to change my life is again a result of believing that external forces affect your life. We're no longer being chased by tigers. So we have homes, we have jobs, we have ways of earning an income. I'm talking, of course, I'm generalizing. I'm talking about the modern man, the modern woman that's not homeless out on the street or has gone through something horrific. That's separate. That's an extreme circumstance. We need to remove the idea that government's going to change anything for us. It's not going to be the case. It's all entertainment. I think it was Frank Zappa that said something like, the politics is the entertainment division of the military or something. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing there. But I think that you need to reach a certain level of suffering within yourself to give birth to the idea that you're actually in charge of it, or that you're wanting to change, even just beginning with you're wanting to make a change. So have a look around you. I hate to sound like Jordan Peterson, but is your room messy? Start there. How is your job? Is it low paying? Do you have many friendships? Do you have many relationships? Do you get to actually feel the sun on your face, or are you addicted to binging Netflix and playing far too many video games. So I think, yes.
I was going to say, do you think it makes us weak though that we've got all of these things and we've got jobs and we've got homes as opposed to the past? So, for example, now what we have got is on everyone's phone they have like the main 7 deadly sins on apps: Tinder being lust, LinkedIn being greed,
Yes.
Facebook being envy, Instagram being pride, Deliveroo, Uber Eats being gluttony, Netflix being sloth. Now, yes, you can use those apps in productive ways, but if something's so easy, do you think that that also has a play on the fact that men are getting weaker to an extent, that things are becoming a lot easier than having to go walk 100 miles to battle to get things, for example?
Well, firstly, I'm going to have to steal that. That was very clever. You're going to have to send that to me later. What you just said with the 7 deadly sins, that was brilliant. But look, yeah, absolutely. The modern world is a world of convenience. There are aspects of that that are beneficial. I think the online world, in terms of building a fortune, is absolutely brilliant. And it actually does take hard work to do so. Hard work of the brain, however, which is different. The physical demands are no longer there unless you are working in the mines, which you get to choose. But no doubt, the modern world of convenience is a dangerous one because it leads to a sense of apathy where you can sit comfortably in your own shit, essentially, and for there to be not many repercussions. But slowly the depression sets in. And then you think to yourself, oh, I should go and get some pills to fix that. And then you're doomed at that point. But in relation to how we solve all of these issues, which had been solved previously, the man and woman paradigm had been solved. Women were more than happy to love their husbands, love their family, raise beautiful children, take care of the house, have their own social life, enjoy almost everything for free. They were happy doing that, and men were happy providing that to a woman, giving that. It's the most stunning thing to be able to do, to be able to provide as a man. We were happy doing that. So I think we need to study the ways of the past, listen more to those that are speaking of traditional values. Not everyone's going to absorb it, and that's perfectly fine. That's okay. But it starts with, are you done with suffering? Have you had enough?
But
And
does it come down to your standards though? The standards you set for yourself. So if you say, well, actually, I'm happy for my room to be in this state, that's fine. I'm happy for my car to have some McDonald's boxes in and
yes,
not clean that often. Do you think it's down to your standards and self-image and self-esteem that makes you feel like that? And just to have a brain far offshoot, really. So I think that's one of the problems with weed as well, because it makes you okay with being bored. It doesn't give you any drive to do anything. It actually takes away your personality, because if you were sat there in a room, you'd be bored. But because you've smoked a spliff or whatever it may be, you're okay sitting there and not doing much. So my question to come back to you off the back of what you've been saying, do you feel that it's the standards that you set for yourself that determines your course of action moving forward?
it's certainly self beliefs, I guess, belief systems that you have internally as to who you are, how much you are worth. No doubt, set the course of the actions that you take daily. If you, with what you're describing, if you're the type of person to enjoy sitting around and you smoke weed, then you're a loser. That's actually how you view yourself. You may think, oh, nah, man, I just want to chill out with my friends after I'm just dealing with a lot of stress. Right? Okay, so you're seeing yourself as a loser. That's all that it is. It's the same with drinking ridiculous amounts on the weekend. Okay, so you're saying that your weekends do not matter to you. So no doubt the self-belief systems that we have in place dictate what it is that we do with each day, though I do believe they are influenced by conditioning growing up. I think if you've had a very easy life, you are more likely to become lazy, selfish, narcissistic, and apathetic. Whereas if you understand what hardship is, you understand what suffering is, and you decide, you make the conscious choice, hey, this is actually my own fault, then you can begin to transform. It kind of has happened to me. I'm in the process of doing that, hit a very, very low point, financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, where I had to realize that it was all of my own doing, despite particular events that have happened in my life. How I've chosen to react was my own doing. So I have no one to blame, absolutely no one to blame for any mental health problems that I've experienced, even if things have happened, because this is my own brain. This is my own mind. People are dealing with their own minds. In the case of extremely horrific things where PTSD occurs, let's just say, not wanting to get too dark here, but if a family member gets murdered, for example, okay, a little bit different. That's a bit different. That takes some getting over, definitely. But in the case of a modern world of the daily activities that we go through, relationship, work, heartbreak, dealing with finances, grief of a family member passing away naturally, or these types of regular life events, we've become so much weaker when it comes to dealing with these life events. It's so fascinating. I have sympathy for teenagers that that are wanting to end their own lives because of bullying. I have sympathy for them because they don't know of the larger world. But even that, there's something that's not quite right there. Where are the values that should have been instilled in those children from the beginning by the parents to not take the words of stupid kids seriously? But where's the strength there?
But what tends to happen is that, as the old adage goes, that hard times make strong men. Strong men create good times, and good times create weak men. And maybe we're at that cycle now where, if we look at the last 75 years, where we are now, I think we're at the cycle of where things have, yes, they are hard now with inflation and cost of living and all. Yes, I get that. But in terms of actually our basic, if we look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the basic few at the bottom are fulfilled. We've generally got food, warmth, shelter. We've got people we can socialize with. Generally got an income for as you said, for the most part.
Absolutely, we do.
So
there's no excuse not to have an income.
But for you personally, over the next sort of 5 years, obviously, you've talked about improving yourself, self-improvement, and all of the areas that you feel you need to improve on: spirituality, goal setting, income, strength, all these sorts of things. So what does your sort of next 5 years look like then, John?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I had a thought come to myself recently that the amount of money that is in my bank account currently is the same as it was 10 years ago. Now, this shouldn't be the case. Absolutely should not be the case. So that's a result of bad decisions, of bad reactions, and not taking responsibility for myself, actual accountability. So the next 5 years for myself involve becoming a multimillionaire, because that is what is required for me to have the life that I wish to live. And ultimately, the idea is to fashion a life where I am creatively giving to the world, whether it's through music, through acting, or in life coaching, even. Just different entrepreneurship and business ventures with the intention of contributing to society, no doubt. And eventually, I'm a single man currently. So eventually finding someone who is capable of being a terrific mother to my eventual kids. I want to give them the best possible start. So essentially, because I understand that this is the only life that I will ever be given, if we just take away the concept of, reincarnation and, consciousness and things like that, which is wonderful. But if we just look at what we absolutely know, this is all we got.
Yeah.
This is all that we've got. So why are we not trying to find ways to make every aspect of our life as good as possible?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't we? And I think what you're saying there, the shelter has been taken care of. The food and the water is already sorted. So we need to find this extra motivation, this extra inspiration.
Yeah.
So look, there is no excuse, and this is obviously a generalization, but there is no excuse for being poor. As someone that has experienced being poor, kind of still struggling with that, there is no excuse for it.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. Not in a world where you can make thousands of dollars online, whether it's through drop shipping or affiliate marketing or any form of e-commerce.
Yeah.
As an example, you can start doing that within weeks if you actually really cared, if you actually really wanted it. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse to not be fit. So if you're overweight, there's no excuse for it. Again, extremes of genetics, yada, yada. They all like to use that excuse. But you can still go to the gym. You can still exercise. There's no excuse when it comes to eating junk food or drinking far too much or smoking weed or any of these things that have that are somewhat celebrated in particular cultures. Here in Australia, for example, we love having a drink on the weekend, and it's celebrated. We call it getting on the piss, is how we refer to it. And it's strange. So the hedonistic, nihilistic behaviors of modern society are encouraged and celebrated, including sleeping around, hence Tinder, the lust. So we need to recognize all that is around us, which is impacting us on a severely negative way, understand that it is simply taking advantage of our dopamine systems in our brain, the impulsive, self-indulgent aspect of our psyche that will actually break us down over time, and to turn away from that in every single aspect. And you absolutely can. There's no reason not to.
It's like you said, in terms of you creating value over the next 5 years, that's what it takes really to increase that bank balance and increase, because you have to be able to give something in value to actually receive payment for it. So what people don't do is they say, well, I'm looking for an above average job with an above average pay, but I'm not an above average person. And what then happens is they get frustrated, and then because they've got that safety net, society now has that safety net where you cannot really fail too far. You can bankrupt, you can start again. You'd always have council housing and things like that. Whereas in the wild before, you would be dead. And again, comes back to what you said as well during your little speech just then. It's about finding the mother of your child, not just a sex object, because a girl to have good sex with is maybe not the same girl as who's going to be the mother of your child. Maybe you're lucky, maybe that is the same person, but for the most part, it's not going to be. And maybe that has led to the gratification seeking, attention seeking, low value individuals that we see today. But I'm not saying that that's always the case, because you get some super high rolling individuals, but there are a lot of people that don't fit that category. So are there any final things that you want to mention for the audience? Maybe your handles, for example, on social media, or is there any final words of wisdom, let's say, to put forward?
Words of wisdom. Sure. The better she is at sex, the worse of a mother she'll end up being. That's one thing I'll say. I say that half jokingly, but no, I think that in the modern world, please, for everyone that ends up watching this, please recognize that you're being constantly targeted by massive corporations around the world that genuinely don't care about you, that are wanting to take advantage of the hedonistic side of yourself that is compulsive, impulsive, and understand that you really do only have one life to live, and you should not settle for what society is trying to put forward towards you. Don't settle for a 9-to-5 job. Start off with that if you need to, but you don't have to settle for that. You do not need to settle for a salary that is placed on you by someone else that is somehow deciding your worth for the year, for the entire year. That doesn't need to be the case. Be as good of a man as you know that you should be, and be as good of a woman as you know that you should be. But no doubt, the majority of your suffering is entirely self-created.
Well, on that note, self-created. I think that's a great way to end. But you're going to say something actually, just then. So,
if your suffering is self-created, which it is, your success is self-created. Simple as that.
Perfect. Any social media handles or anything like that the guests can reach you on if they need to?
Yeah, certainly. So at the moment, I'm not on Facebook or Instagram. Very strange, I know. I will be getting back onto those platforms for marketing purposes soon. But you can find me on Twitch. I do live stream on Twitch, of all places. The tag is King Hartley, KingHartley. I do have a Discord community where if you would like to interact with me, can do so there. And I'm starting up a new business which is designed to help content creators make the most of their skills and abilities to eventually get out of the 9-to-5 themselves. So I'm working on the world's best program for that. Actually, I say that confidently. It's going to be quite exciting, and I'm sure if I do more of these and interact with more wonderful people such as yourself, that I'll start popping up here and there. So,
absolutely, it's an organic way to do it. You're giving information, giving value,
value. That's where it's at.
That's it, and that's basically what my book is about. Become a person of value, give value, and everything else will take care of itself. Well, thanks very much for your time, John. You have a lovely day.
Thank you, Jivan.
And we'll catch you next time.
Will do.
Cheers, buddy.
Lovely. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye.